Alright boys, listen up. I got the orders from the big boss. He wants these trucks painted good and red. So while you're painting them, you're gonna get your brushes and you're gonna listen to the show on the big boomy box. Now, it's a great show. It's run by some stinking old humies, but they're good in my book. We got there Chaos Divided with Brush and Noise Marine and Nurgle Snuggle. Now you listen up real good or I'll crush your heads in. Now don't bother me now. I'm working on something.
Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of Wholesome Hammer. If you're a fan of what we do, we hope you'll subscribe and follow us along. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K. This week, we're writing the next chapter to the Grimdark Guide, so strap in and enjoy as we level up your Warhammer experience. And if you can't tell, I've got a little Nurgle inside of me.
I mean, there's always a little Nurgle inside of you, isn't there? But I think it's
exactly.
It's infecting, it's contaminating.
He came to me on Valentine's Day.
He came to you, did he?
He came to me on Valentine's Day and showed me what his true love is. And this week's quote is... All I see is blushing.
There we thank you.
Face.
Thank you for getting there.
No plan survives contact with the enemy. Then you're not making the right plans. This is attributed to Rogel Dorn in retort to Lionel Johnson.
We were just saying before we started, I think Rogel Dorn just thinks everyone else is stupid.
Yeah. But yet he's probably, without being the Emperor, like probably the worst dad of them all.
He's, you know what? Imperial Fist fans, you can come after me. Rogel Dorn is very confident and not really like always successful in that confidence, we'll say. He's I mean, you know what? There's not many Primarchs that have Primarch body counts, and Rogel Dorn does have one, so, you know, props to him there.
What do you mean?
We killed Alfarius.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, no. So he's a Primarch who's killed another Primarch, which not all of them have.
Mm-hmm.
But he's kind of like, I'm 5 steps ahead, and everyone's just kind of like, no, you're not, Dorn. No, you're not.
Oh, he's that annoying coworker, isn't he?
He's like the guy that's like, my work's all done, and you're like, yeah, but that's just because everyone else did it for you. Like, calm down.
He's the one that's been in the company for so long and constantly saying every Friday afternoon, this is my last week. You're not going anywhere.
Right?
We know.
We know you, Dorn. You're a company man to the very end. Yeah. You're not fooling anyone here. You're gonna be here on Monday, and you're holding down the fort. Yeah. You know.
I see what you did there.
Right. So yeah, tied it back to the lore. And you know what? That kind of leads into our conversation, because we're talking about leveling up your Warhammer. Part of that is like exploring more of what makes Warhammer Warhammer.
Yeah, you want that promotion, don't you?
You want to get that level up from junior Warhammerite to intermediate Warhammerite. You gotta do some work. You gotta put in the hours.
What's the final title? CEO? Warhammer?
I think you just ascend to James Hood at that point.
James Hood.
You just become James Workshop. You become a Jamesian prince. Like a demon prince, but for Games Workshop.
Does it come with a fireplace and robe?
It's actually. It's required that you always have a fireplace and robe.
I love this make-believe character.
You know what? I hope he catches on. My dream actually is to be out and somebody doesn't recognize me, but I hear them talking and be like, James Workshop screwed me again. Like, I want to hear that without someone knowing that I'm here to listen to it. I want it to become so common that it's just like, James, you're screwing me over again. Like, you gotta sit by your fireplace and just make up rules. Like, I would love that. That's my dream.
Yeah, there needs to be like a Saturday Night Live show where it's just like, yeah, a skit upon skit of just like James Workshop.
I wonder, you know what? If we ever had any significant amount of money, we should make those. We should just like hire the James Workshop actor to make.
Yes. Oh, hit James himself?
We'd hire James to make James Workshop
parodies, but people are gonna be confused.
Exactly. That's amazing. Can you imagine?
We hired James Workshop.
Yes.
So then we would be his boss?
And he'll answer all of your emails on camera.
He already does.
He doesn't do it on camera.
Oh, I see. Thank you, James Workshop, for being our little punching bag.
Somebody's gotta be. I like the idea of personifying Games Workshop into this guy.
Yes. Yeah. You can just put all
it
your...
makes it funnier.
Yes. Instead of being like, Games Workshop, blah, 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 you're like, no, James, stop fooling around.
Get your head in the game.
Yeah, it makes it more personable, I guess.
Right? Yeah, you're not yelling at a faceless corporation. You're yelling at a very known character that we all know and love and also despise simultaneously.
And love to hate. Like,
oh yeah.
And I'm sure he loves it as well. Yes.
But you know, in your heart of hearts, you would want to go and have like a beer with James Workshop and just like learn all the secrets.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You think he would spill?
You're getting drunk enough.
What do you think he drinks?
Oh, probably just like pure
Smirnoff Ice.
ground up cash. Just snorts cash at the table. Just like rip it up into tiny little fibers and then just snort that. Just pure money into his blood system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we were doing some math before recording.
And by math, I just looked up the investor revenue report. James makes bank, we'll say.
Yeah. And then burns it at the same time.
No, it doesn't burn it. James Workshop is a healthy corporation, we'll say, that produces much value for shareholders.
But didn't we say that he has like a little side section of money that he just starts fires with?
Well, because he's got so much. When you've got so much cash, that's what I mean. Just like drink of choice, snorting cash. Because just like, just skip the step. Skip the step of buying something and just literally just deface currency because you have so much of it.
And then just pay the fine when you do.
Is there a fine for defacing currency? I know in the States there is.
Yeah, there's like a federal offense.
I think in the States. I don't know if there is in Canada or like the UK.
Wasn't there like a... Remember when people were making was the $5 bill into Spock? And then they had to like announce, do not do this?
I remember this. I don't think it was illegal though. That's why they were kind of just like it was more of a like the most like Canadian way possible. They were just like, please stop doing that.
Yeah, we would prefer if you stopped doing that.
It would be considered a kindness upon us if you would please not do that.
Yeah, don't Spockify our money. Thank you.
You know what? I'm gonna make a commitment. The first Grimdark Guide, we were just listening to it. It took us 30 minutes to get into the first topic. We're gonna not do that this time. We're gonna jump 9 minutes in, right in. So the original Grimdark Guide was kind of about what it feels like to get it started in Warhammer, and we kind of wanted to push
Mhm.
that into kind of like you've built your first models, you maybe had your first couple of games, and then like what do you do next?
Yes. So you've
So what
got
do you
your
do next?
models in front of you. Do you
Yes.
do you pile on to the pile, or you should
Do you make
probably
a
start.
second pile of a different
Oh,
army?
right.
Mm,
There's many directions you can go into.
it's true. The ever, you know what? That could probably be an episode
Oh,
in and of itself. But like to start a new army or to expand on it, because you know, actually, you though you are Nurgle Snurgle, you have a very deep catalog of Nurgle miniatures. You do have,
mm-hmm.
a pretty broad range of demons.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a few armies.
Yeah, I got a couple. Yeah.
You got
There's
a
some
few.
options.
There's some Tyranids there, and there's some Death Guard about, and
Mm-hmm.
Jared's got some World Eaters and some
All the
Night Lord
demons.
ones.
Yeah.
All the demons. So
Yeah.
so I guess how did you go from like Nurgle to that next step?
I guess you have to kind of. What do you mean, the next step?
Like once you got your like kind of your first 2,000 points, did you keep adding on to Nurgle demons, or
100%.
just
Yes.
you went deep into Nurgle demons?
100%. Yeah. Or Jarrett would continuously buy models as little gifts. I don't know. Thinking about it, it's just like it just kept growing, and I didn't say no to it. So, I think because back in the day, we talked about this during the list building. This is the end of 8th, so armies were different back then, and I knew what kind of armies I wanted to build, and that was like having 3 units of 9 beasts. So that was like one of my goals, was to figure out how can I build beasts instead of paying $50 per model. So that was something. We used to be able to do 30 plague bearers per unit, so I was like, okay, I want 3 units, so I had 90 plague bearers. So it's definitely a lot more hoardy. So I guess at that point, I just wanted to have a selection. So if I wanted to be like, oh, I want to play a plague bearer list, or I wanted to play my beast list, I started figuring out types of lists and kind of just built from there.
That's fair. You know what? When I think of like how my tower a little bit more ad hoc, and that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the Emperor's Children, when I kind of, I bought like a big bundle of that to start off with, and then it was really kind of like after each game or tournament, it would kind of be like, okay, what did I feel was missing?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely spent some time like building that. Like I don't have a full CSM army. Like there's models I don't have, and models I probably will never have, and I'm okay with that. But it was kind of like after each event or kind of major list change, it would kind of be like, what was that missing? And if I didn't already have it, then I'm kind of like, oh, what's this time? Like the Warforged box that I bought, that was very much a like, okay, I need some shooting in my list, and that was a way to just kind of wholesale add it in.
See, I never went into building my list like, oh, I need the most powerful list. I never do that. I don't consider it whatsoever. Even in the beginning, people tell me like, oh, you have to have like cohesion amongst your army, and I didn't quite understand what that meant. I only went with the rule of cool and what would be like funny and what would be like kind of like, oh, I wanted to see these abilities together. That was it. Like I never think like, oh, this is the most OP thing I could ever make, and let's rock this tournament. Never. I just like, 18 beasts, that's funny, let's do that.
That's fair.
So I'm strictly rule of cool.
I mean, I have 9 Chaos Bikers for that very same reason, because I think they're very cool. And I'm bringing all 9 of them to the next tournament.
Yeah. Nice.
And if anyone ever calls me a meta chaser, I will just point at my pile of Chaos Bikers and be like, what do you mean? Get off my back.
Yeah.
Um,
Look how old these are.
right? I like how old the rules for them suck, but I love them. I love them to the very core of my being. They're dudes on motorcycles. They're cool. And so yeah, I think there's a part of like adding on to that, like yeah. So when I say adding on, I mean like adding on because I felt like I didn't have a tool in my toolbox. It wasn't like, oh, I need to build. I went on Goonhammer and they said that this is a model I need to have in my list. It was more like, okay, when I was playing, I kept reaching for this, in what I was talking about, the Obliterators and the Venom Crawler. I was reaching for shooting and I didn't have it. And when I bought some Warp Talons, it was I kept reaching because I was like, I need to go faster. For the way I want to play this, I want to go faster.
And what can I go that goes fast? Oh, you look at your stats, you're like, oh, this goes 14, let's go that one.
Oh, I wish Warp Talons went 14. But yeah, it's the like, they only go 12 now. Nothing goes 14 anymore.
Not even your bikes go 14?
No, I know. I hate it.
Oh. Rip.
I know, they should go 14.
Yes.
Right? Maybe Emperor's Children and Chaos Bikers will go 14 inches. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was more about like, because there is the kind of the player in the back of my brain that's kind of like, okay, how do we solve the problems you're facing on the table? But at the same time, it is also definitely like I don't think Accursed Cultists look good, and they have been like, I don't love them.
Oh.
So I've never bought them.
Highly disagree, but that's okay.
I don't love them.
You're allowed to disagree.
I do disagree.
What is it? Is it like the aesthetics of them, or?
Yeah, I just like, if I want human riffraff, I want like regular cult. I want folks that like are about to die for a cause, that are just like, they know their chaff. They're not wearing armor. They're not tough. They're just like, they're just there. They're just there because the big angry Lucius was like, you stand there or I'll kill you. And they're just like, yes, sir, sorry, sir, right away, sir. Like, that's what a cultist is in my mind. They're not big. They're not beefy. They don't have gifts from the dark gods. They're just like
cultists. But these are
they're just cultists.
These are cursed.
Nah, I don't know.
You can bring them back. They're kind of resilient. In a sense.
That's too nurgly.
Yeah.
That's like because you're like, I love them, and because they're very like Nurgle in their like concept, and I'm like, no.
And like I only like them because I painted them, and they're amazing to paint.
Fair. I haven't painted them because I haven't bought any.
Oh, okay.
But
that's your first problem. I'm just kidding.
Should have just bought more. But yeah, they didn't appeal to me. Like the Warp Talons. I look at Warp Talons and I'm like, that's a cool model. I wanted to paint that. Yeah. The Venom Crawler, I was like stoked to paint because I'm just like, it's a stupid spider bot. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The Obliterators, I thought I was gonna hate painting, and then really liked them. I normally don't like doing like the weird fleshy chaos mutation stuff, but I really liked the Obliterators. So they kind of surprised me.
Yeah, because they're like nice little blocky, bulky. You got the one arm out. Like they look pretty easy to paint. They're not close together. They're not squished. There's not like hard parts to paint. So that's what I mean.
Yeah, where the detail is easy to access. They're very open.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, they were actually quite nice to paint, and they came out really well. I think because they're a generous model to paint. So I ended up really enjoying that. So yeah, that's kind of what like follows the Rampager was pure. I wanted to paint tonight though. I bought that purely because
But what it kind of sounds like though is you do kind of buy and paint models when it kind of fits your army and the aesthetic of your army. Whereas like the models I painted, say for my Plague Bears, I strictly went on like a story. Like I created a story of who these Plague Bears are at, like the ones that I especially converted, or even like the earlier ones. I thought of the story and I just painted and I went with that. If I play with them, I play with them. If I don't, then I didn't. So it's kind of funny how the two paths that you and I have taken. You went like,
Hmm.
I need this in my army. I go like, I like this for the recruitment, I guess, options if I needed them.
That's fair. I actually, talking about a story though, I've talked about this on the podcast. Remember we talked about the idea of like the Grey Knight who goes into Slaaneish's domain.
Oh right,
I
and
have
then he
actually,
yeah.
I've been writing that story, and I had the idea I'm going to convert a like Grey Knight's brother captain into a Chaos Lord to represent him on the table.
Nice. That he's
Yeah.
still like, I'm serving the Emperor and the Emperor loves me.
We'll have to see how the story ends, but
Oh.
I'm only I think I'm 4 or 5 chapters into writing it.
Are you gonna share it?
Maybe. If people want to see it, maybe I'll put it on the Patreon.
Exactly,
People
yeah.
can- Yeah.
Maybe we could do like like an audiobook.
Ooh, I'll read it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get Jared to read it.
Mm-hmm.
That could be fun. Or
Yeah.
the one and only Nurgle Snurgle.
Even when I'm sick?
Maybe not when you're sick. Maybe wait for you to rest up a bit.
That would be really fun.
It could be. Yeah, maybe I'll try and work on that today.
Put that in the question.
Ooh, people want to see it?
Yeah.
I'll put it out there. I'll put it out there in the world, see if people are interested.
Okay.
But yeah, that was probably the first idea for a model I'd had that had a story that I like wanted.
Okay.
So at some point I'm gonna buy that model.
You're quite a few models deep in without any story connected to them.
Yeah. It's true.
I think you're gonna unlock something once you do it. And you're gonna think of stories for each model.
You know what? I think it's honestly been trying to find that style and hobbying with more intention. It kind of connected those two dots. Because like in my mind, like there's the lore, and then like there's the game, and I'm finding the longer we do this podcast, the more they all blur together.
Yes.
It's like as we talk about this more and more, I'm forming more connections in my brain as to like how these things interact and like interrelate.
Yeah, like we talk about like the 4 pillars, but then you start to realize it's actually a combined pillar.
It's true. Well, yeah, and they're not that far apart from each other. They're all kind of like they're all interconnected in different ways. And you know what? I think as far as the story, actually, I think the Rampager, the whole base I have laid out for that has a whole story. And when I did Shalaxi, I think that was probably the first one that I was kind of like had more thought as to like how is this model actually existing within my army, and like how to like what having more of a story as to like where is it coming from.
Where's it been?
But it's been percolating in there. But yeah, for the first like 3,000 points of CSM I painted, it was just like, I like purple, and then it went to like, I like every color, and now it's let's think a little bit more about this.
Yeah. I know you've mentioned that it was kind of like the easy way out, but you doing your graffiti on the rhino is kind of like the start of a story.
Yeah.
Because that is like the action, and like there's something else besides just paint on a model. You gave a reason why it looks like graffiti.
True. Yeah, and you know what I think as far as like advice out there is like it's okay to not have it figured out in the beginning. It's okay to find the story. It's okay to find like what makes sense for you. Like you don't have to be like, oh, I'm gonna make this army, it has to have this whole narrative. Like you can just start painting and then be like, actually maybe this is why that's that way. Or like, you know what, I really like it when it looks this way, maybe this is why. And you just build it piece by piece.
Yeah. And on the same foot, like you don't have to have the most powerful list whatsoever out there. You can just stick with the rule of cool, and it can be fun when you're at the table and people are like, wow, why does it look like that? And you have like a connection and a story to share.
Honestly, I find it so much more fun to play when you're not trying to like absolutely demolish your opponent.
Yeah.
If you don't have like the most like cutting list on the block, your games are so much better because your opponent actually gets to play along with you. You definitely increase the likelihood of you losing, but losing is part of the game, and as long as you're okay with that, which you should be, you'll have more fun.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like, rule of cool, bring the Chaos Bikers, bring as many Beasts of Nurgle as you want. Bring it all. Bring the thing that you're like, oh, it's not the best rules, but it's a lot of fun to play. Bring it.
Or even if like, hey, I want to bring it, I don't know how it's gonna interact. How are you gonna know if you don't play it?
Right? Put it on the table.
Yeah.
Put it on the table and see how it goes.
And if it doesn't work, you go, I tried.
Well, and even the kind of the next level to that is like, oh, it didn't work. What do I do to make it work? Is like that's when you start getting into like advanced strategies and like understanding the game better. Is like if you take the terrible idea and make it work anyways, because you understand what it needs to support. Like when I talked about like having the tools in your toolbox, if you're like, I want to bring, I don't know, what's a model what's one of your favorite models that like the rules aren't the best at?
Epidemus.
What does Epidemus do?
He used to make a tally, so every time you killed like a unit, he would add to his tally, and he would just buff up the entire army. And now it's just like when you kill 7 models, you get a tally, and if you kill 7 models, you get a CP. It's bleh.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
like,
right.
No, it's not. If I'm fighting,
right.
If I'm fighting like knights, that sucks. He's just
good.
A paperweight.
You could. How many points is he?
He's like, he came down. I think he's 80 now. But he was like hovering at the like 100, 105 for a little bit.
That's too much for him.
Yeah.
I think you could still make him work. You just, you have to play differently. You have to.
But he does like, you can add him to Plague Bearers, and he gives them a 4-up invulnerable.
See, that's huge.
Yes.
That's useful.
So I might take him to the next GT. I don't know.
Honestly, that's a good just like middle of the table holding unit. Because Plague Bearers are, or actually, even because you're Shadow of Chaos. Actually, that's a great unit to just like throw on the opposite end of the board from your opponent, where they don't have easy access to it, and then just like it's hard to shoot off the table. So you can lock down Shadow of Chaos. See, there's always a way. There's always a way to make it useful.
I know, and I'm really excited for next week.
Yes, are you doing the triple Great Unclean ones?
Of course I am.
Oh, I'm so excited. Are you doing quadruple? Are you bringing Rodigus too?
No, I'm just gonna go 3 and Be'lakor, and then Plague Bearers, and Beasts, and
it's gonna be so good. Does he also give? Is it just Plague Bearers that get the 6 of Feel No Pain, or is it all Nurgle demons?
No, I just believe. Oh, you know what?
Does he give it to like the Beasts of Nurgle and the like?
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna look at my cards now. The cards are just right there. Look at that. That's convenience right there.
Let's cut off. Hasn't happened yet. We could make adjustments.
Well, I haven't really built my list yet, but
no, I think that's a good point. Is like you can go from start, like if you're gonna play a game and you're building your list, start with a fun premise and then figure out how that works, rather than just trying to be like, how can I stomp face? Is it Nurgle Demons?
It's just Nurgle Demons.
That's what I thought it was.
Oh, it's 6 inches. You told someone said. No, it's the -1.
No, what's the -1 toughness range?
It's 12. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're golden, and that's stats.
We're golden
as we learn. So.
All right, so because the Beasts of Nurgle can be squads of 3.
Yes.
So 3 Beasts of Nurgle with Feel No Pains on them is very hard to shift.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a little nonsensical. Are they tough 9?
Yes.
Oh, that's gonna be brutal for a lot of armies. a bunch of those, Tough 9 is like, because you're like, yeah, that'll be funny.
Can you imagine if this shifts to like top tier?
You're gonna bring it home. Actually, you know, it'd be awesome if you and I fought for top table.
I know. How golden would that be?
That would be pretty cool.
Chaos
Slanesh
Divided
versus
versus Chaos Divided.
Doom, doom, doom.
You know, it'd be even better if all the Elder were bottom tables. Why are we telling our sweet dreams right now?
I don't know. This is a tangent upon tangents.
Can you imagine? Sorry. Yes. Back to the grimdark guy.
This is just a podcast. This is just you and I talking. This is you and I telling stories.
If you want to pick up any lessons throughout, you can try to find them.
There's wisdom within this podcast. I just don't know where it is. You know, I want to ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
How do you set goals for your hobby? Like you are
what
I would describe as a very capable hobbyist. So how did you get there?
Well, I think like how I just said, like I just have like if I have an idea and I think it's slightly funny or cute or cool, that's how I just go after it. It's so funny to like kind of think back of like how you were in the beginning of a hobbyist and the like how young and fresh I was. And then you kind of grow the seed of resent and over, but it was just strictly, is this cool? And that was it. And it was never for like cool enough for like likes or anything. I just like, say for the Plague Bears, because we had a lot of bits in the house, I just had this vision of like, these Plague Bears need a personality. What can I do with that? Like, there's all these helmets and arms. I didn't want to have like your standard Plague Bears that we've all seen. I wanted to like mess around a little bit. So I just started to put bits on, and then I kind of created the story as I went, and it just dawned on me. I was like, oh, these Plague Bears, like Jarrett told me that Plague Bears were once men. So why not give them that character? And they've always held on to a character of themselves and become these Plague Bears. So, as for goals, I'm not a goal setter, even in my life. It's just, I love just going with the flow and finding that journey along the way. And wherever that takes me, I just go with it.
That's fair. You know what? It's interesting. I've been finding myself actually setting more like hobby goals lately.
Mm-hmm.
I would have said that that's how I did it before, and I've actually been now trying more of like actually holding myself to more of an idea than I would. So yeah, I guess the thing that I'm kind of dealing with now though is I'm trying to the Chaos Warriors I'm painting right now. I'm trying a bunch of different new things on them, and what I'm trying to not let it do is like they're not all turning out the way I want them to, but not letting that get me down, and just kind of like then going with the flow as far as like learn from each one. And I think that's, setting goals is good if that's what's going to help you, but like don't let them hinder you. I think it's just kind of,
I guess like for hobbying, what would be the reason of setting a goal?
If you want to learn like a new skill or try and accomplish like a new technique, or you're trying to like push yourself a bit as far as like if you want maybe a higher degree of realism than you're used to, or you want it even like when we had JT on talking about like fidelity, you want to make sure that your models are maybe more easily seen. Yeah, just like if you want to make sure like your models are more easily seen from the tabletop or something. Like if you're just trying to like explore maybe something that you aren't able to do now. So it's not necessarily as like, oh, I want to paint 15 models in this month. It's more like, how do I maybe do something that I don't know how to do right now?
I guess like I don't set it up as a goal or like an idea. It's just something I try, and that's literally just what hobbying is. Just try it.
You don't know, and I think that is a good attitude, because if you go in too hard on it and
Exactly.
it doesn't turn out, then it's like crushing.
And then you have like the expectations and then the reality, and then you're like, this looks nothing like what I expected. And that's where heartbreak can come from. And once you start breaking down the expectations, then the reality will just be more enjoyable.
Yeah, so I would say, like, if you are someone who likes to set goals, set soft goals.
Yeah.
Set goals that you aren't emotionally tied to accomplishing.
Which you'll find out what kind of goal setter you are when you are playing or painting, because you kind of figure out what kind of personality you are with this game. You're like, okay, I seem to like winning. Why do I like winning so much? And then you discover that further on. Or even with painting, you'll figure out like, okay, in order to get me motivated, I need a clean surface area. And knowing, you start to figure out what gets you going and what makes you happy. And that's part of the discovery of it all. And really like take that time to discover yourself as a person, because we're not all the same. Like I'm sure if you try painting like me and I painted like you, it just wouldn't fit, because we're not the right fit for each other's puzzles.
I can't even imagine how I would try and paint like you. It would just be bad. I was just like, I don't even know how it would start. So I just
there's a really good video out there. Like I said, when I made the cape for the Lionel Johnson, and I'm really sick, and I'm just like, I'm sitting there for at least 20 minutes struggling, like, how the hell am I gonna do this? What am I gonna what am I gonna do? And then I just go, okay, I'll try it now. And then like I just got into it, and then at the end I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds too bad. So that's how you
know what? Other than the panic, the end part seems more like how I paid. But yeah, the sheer terror at the beginning, not as familiar with that.
It's all terror. It's like I have Conrad Kurz behind me. Paint good. Okay.
Conrad Kurz. Painting bad is a crime. Don't make me find you guilty. And you're like, ah!
I do have to say, our last conversation with Jeremy from the Grimdark podcast, or the history podcast, that I had a little bit of a different take on Conrad Kurz when he mentioned him, and I was like, you know what? There's something there. Like he's more understandable of why he does what he does.
I've kind of talked about this as far as like Fulgrim. But Conrad Kurz makes sense.
Yes.
Like he like really like one of the reasons why Fulgrim goes traitor is that he realizes the humanity he's been denied. Conrad Kurz is literally denied like sanity. Like, can you imagine being like a child, and all you can see and dream about is your father murdering you?
Yeah. Was that what he saw was his father murdering him?
Well, he knew that his father was the one who sends this assassin.
I guess
he knows
so, okay.
The emperor. So he knows his father, who he doesn't yet know, will be responsible for his death.
Yeah.
Like,
and the torture that must bring.
Just pure not environmental. Well, his environment was also pretty violent.
Yeah.
But that's emotional violence.
Yes.
Just pure unadulterated. And like, he also can see the future beyond just his own death. Like, he can also see what other people will do. So he sees, and it's often tainted, he sees, I think, the worst in people.
Right.
Like, he sees the worst outcomes for people. But he touches someone and he sees the crimes they can commit and the murder and the violence that they'll enact on others. Whether or not it would have happened, that's what he sees. So all he lives in is this world of like hate and violence and mistrust and darkness. And it's already a very dark, messed up planet that he grows up on.
And then if that's the ability of the Emperor, then the Emperor knew that of Horus.
You know what? Actually, after that episode, I've thought again about the whole. There's actually, I read about it as it's a Star Wars theory that what the Emperor and Darth Vader were trying to do was militarize the galaxy against an existential threat that hadn't been revealed yet. And when you think of like the Necrons reawakening, what are the odds that happens within a 10,000 year time span of the Emperor? Tyranid fleets showing up, what are the odds that happens within a 10,000 year time frame of the Emperor? Like the Great Crusade, like those are in a galactic scale very unlikely. What are the odds of like the Tau ascending to technological supremacy over like a 6,000 year period at the same time? What are the odds of like the Votan like doing what they're doing over there? Again, you have a lot of factions doing a lot of different things, all kind of in a very short on a galactic time frame scale.
Compared to the prior 30,000 years,
yeah, like even just like the birth of Slaanesh leading to like Chaos's ascendancy, and you know the whole everything that happens, like just all of it. And then you even think of like the Indomitus Crusade and Primaris Marines coming into being 10,000 years later. Like there's a lot of stuff converging on one time frame. So if the Emperor knew, okay, if I win the Great Crusade, I maybe tame the Eldar, but I don't get rid of them. I maybe keep the Orcs under control, but not all of them. And I can maybe kind of institute some degree of like galactic peace, but peace makes a society rich and thriving and, you know, harmonious. But when you're dealing with things like the Tyranids or the Necrons, like you're just kind of screwed because they don't stop. You have like an unstoppable enemy. I think there might be a part of him that was like he wanted everything to happen the way that it happened.
Yeah.
Because you want, like, if the Imperium is like sharpening its sword against chaos for 10,000 years, like the Imperium of the 41st millennium is one that is completely militarized and like bonkers dangerous. And if that's what the Emperor thought humanity needed to be to survive, because that's all he cares about, that's his like prime motivation, is the survival of humanity.
Well, maybe he saw the full consumption of humanity from the Tyranids, therefore he needed to build this force against it just to keep it going. Whether that's but that's a tangent for another day, isn't it?
It is, but I've definitely been thinking about that more, and the like the Emperor wanting the heresy to happen seems somewhat likely in my mind. Anyway, you know what? So talking about the lore, leveling up your lore game, listen to that episode, listen to this episode. We're talking about lore right now. I think the big thing with lore, it was something we just did, theorizing. And I think that's how you go from like consuming the lore to living the lore and having fun with it, is talking about it with other people.
And not taking it so seriously either.
Because it's not serious. It's meant to have fun with.
Yeah.
But I've even seen over the last year of us doing this, and you're learning more. Like I can see you engaging more and kind of asking questions and theorizing a bit, and like, you know, you don't have to have a huge basis for the lore to start being like, well, why is that the way that is? Is that real or is that fake? Is it propaganda? Is it like, are we supposed to think that about it, or is it actually the opposite? Like, who is Vashtor? What is going on? Abaddon doesn't suck anymore. What's even happening?
He meant to fail? What?
He was successfully failing the whole time, not failing to fail. I don't know. Whatever. He was failing to fail the whole time, not succeeding at failing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make the words work?
There definitely comes a point when you're consuming where you're just like, okay, I need to stop the notion that I'm going to know it all. Like when people get into lore or they get into any type of universe. I know that there's this innate want to know everything so that you can have an answer to, but once you start accepting that with Warhammer, you're like, you know what? I'm okay to not know everything because that's a huge filing cabinet I cannot contain, and that's where the fun can really start.
Well, and I think that's one of the benefits of Warhammer is it's too big to know everything.
Yes.
But even our Valentine's Day episode, we've already gotten some feedback that we definitely missed some romances.
So we do have a Valentine's next year episode.
There's a few barrel scrapings that we didn't explore. But I think, again, that's part of the community. Like, people have brought that to our attention.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, what about this? What about this? Like, Inquisitor Greyfax and Saint Celestine apparently have a little bit of a, like, will they, won't they romance? And I'm kind of like, I want to know. Yeah, they have a similar to, like, Gulliman and Yvraine. They have, like, a very, like, you know,
this look, and then they're like, oh, there's something there.
Exactly. Yeah, but apparently there's. So I want to go back and find that book that it's mentioned in. So like they kind of have a thing going on. And there's apparently in one of the Night Lords books, somebody told us there's like a full-on romance section, which again you would not expect in Night Lords, but Night Lords contain multitudes. But I honestly I think that's a strength is like. Other people know a little bit.
Yes.
And I think before Warhammer was so like online, most of how you got lore was just talking to other people, and it's like, oh, you read that book? What happens in that book? Like, I've read this book. Here's what happens there. Those things contradict each other. What's even going on? And like, kind of like having fun with that. So I think Warhammer's meant to be an imperfect lore. You're not supposed to know it all, and everything you know isn't even necessarily right anyways, so, like, have fun with it.
Exactly. And I think it's just coming to that realization, like I said, when you were consuming, is you do get to that point, you're like, okay, now I can proceed on to having fun.
Absolutely. And I think the big takeaway in all of this is get out there, connect with people. Find your community, whether it's online, going to some local events, finding your game store that like is local to you, or even if it's not even super local, is at least nearby enough that it's not too difficult to get there, and just meet some people and have some fun.
Or find a podcast that you really enjoy listening to and join their
Discord. I'm gonna try not so
what?
Self-aggrandizingly, maybe hinted that. But you know what?
That's an option. We're not the only podcast.
You know, ours is pretty good. We got a pretty good Discord.
Yeah.
Once Nurgle Snurgle's been a little too busy, been noticing the old hobby pics have been slow lately, so we'll forgive her.
Oh, thank you.
doing big and bold things, so. But that's also partly where having community can also help. Having folks that you can chat is you can kind of get your Warhammer fix when you don't have enough time to like, you know, if I don't have time to paint in a day, but then I see someone post something on the Discord, or I go on Instagram and I see somebody post something, it's kind of like, oh, that's beautiful. Like I get to kind of like have a moment of little Warhammer joy. So
exactly. Well, the one thing I know is like the community is gonna always be there. And it's not gonna be like, oh, you haven't been in the community for a month. Shun you. It's like, no. It's like, oh, welcome back. Welcome home.
Yeah. It's true. And there's always so many people that are just excited to see what other people are doing.
Exactly.
So, you know, share what you're doing with other folks, whether that's like posting it or putting it in a Discord or just like sending pictures to your friends, whatever. Like, you know, one of my what's become a favorite thing for me is like putting something in the Discord of like, oh, this is what I'm working on, and just kind of like getting to see what other people are working on, and just like sharing that creative process with people, and being able to even get feedback if you're like, I don't know how to do the thing I'm trying to do here, and somebody will be like, have you tried this? You're like, I didn't even think that was an option.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
And like you said, like taking that first step can be kind of scary a little bit at first, but once you put it out there, it's not scary whatsoever. Like, for example, there's a really fantastic artist actually in Nova Scotia. He does oil painting on miniatures, and he's phenomenal. Is it Eternal Medium? Oh, I can't remember. I think it's something like ethereal or eternal medium. Sorry if I'm getting it wrong. But he paints strictly with oil paints, and they are just mind-blowing what you can do with oil painting. It is completely like a different medium, but the results are fantastic. And I've admired his work since the beginning, since I first laid eyes on it. And I just shot him a message. I was like, hey, do you do any like teachings or like tutorials or anything like that? This is something I'd like to do, and I know that you're in this area. And he humbly responded back saying he doesn't do like tutorials because I can tell like he's probably just like me, where I don't know exactly the process that I'm doing. I'm just doing it, and teaching is so different. But he also opened up with like, but I'd love to like just hobby chat, and you can kind of take away, like I could take away anything he's sharing. Like, I don't need like masterclass lessons, but I love that I took that opportunity to just reach out to him, and then for him to reach back, and that can go same for who's ever listening. Like, if you have a question, just ask it. Like, there's no wrong in asking. Like, I think we do have this fear of like the rejection type of mindset, but there's nothing like that in the hobby. So once you like extend that first like little olive branch, like, hey, can you help me, you will easily find people to respond and say like, well, maybe I'm not the best, but I would love to help. Like, everybody just wants to help, and that's the beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think we're all in this to see people do cool things with miniatures.
Exactly. We're not here to make the perfect miniatures. We're here just to make cool things. And I think you're starting to like. Granted, I haven't really been so much on Instagram the last little while, but the one growing thing I've seen is seeing people's creativeness. And it doesn't have to be the best painted. It's just like, what kind of little universe are you creating with your miniatures that's really like grabbing the attention of people, because that's what people want. They don't want the perfected glazed or the perfected. It is really cool to see, but they're more gravitating to like the ground affected guy, to see these models be robotically moved, or flamethrowers coming out, or LEDs, or just like cool stuff.
There's room for everyone's cool stuff.
Exactly. So. And the fact that you're trying or you're putting yourself out there is cool enough.
Absolutely. You know, there's no wrong way to reach out to someone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Well, sorry, there is a wrong way.
Don't
be mean or gross.
Or
weird,
yeah.
But, don't be like, don't be mean. But if you're reaching out with like a sincere intention to like connect with someone and share something cool with them, people aren't gonna react poorly to that. Mm-mm. Any other last thoughts?
Last thoughts. I just spilled a lot of thoughts, but just continuously enjoy this journey. There's no beginning, middle, or destination. It is wherever you feel the most comfortable, and just enjoy that, especially in the moment.
100%.
For yourself, any last?
I was just gonna say, I like to enjoy the journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think when I came back to Warhammer, I was so nervous about figuring it all out. It took me a while to start kind of just enjoying what Warhammer is, because I was like, oh, how do I get some games in? I don't know anyone, and it was almost like this like stressful, like I don't understand how this world works. So yeah, I would encourage just let it happen. Reach out to people. Don't stress about it. Have fun. This is meant to be fun. We're all supposed to be having fun here.
Are you having fun?
I'm having fun. Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast.
Oh, even more fun. I got outfunned. Well, on that note, I want to thank you all for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided wherever you're listening from, and you can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K, which is also where the podcast is on now, so you can listen to it on YouTube if that's your preferred medium. And if you're a fan of what we're doing and want to join our growing Wholesome Hammer community, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K, which both supports the show and gets you access to our pretty cool Discord. I thought it's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
I think everyone in there is pretty cool. So, and if you'd like to connect with us directly, we're at Nurgle_Snurgle and at Blushing Noise Marine on Instagram and YouTube. And until next time, bye-bye.
Ciao for now.
Play jazz music.